connected. All right, so we are now four of us. Right, as I see, Chandrika madam is there, Ramesh is there, and two of us. Wonderful. So, what I intend doing today is covering some more concepts of Chanakya, connecting from the last session. We've had 3 sessions earlier in the past, and in these 3 sessions we had seen as to what was the ancient Indian historical time, right? How did we transcend from the, say, Satyuga to till today, and what is the role of those scriptures, the historical past that we've had. And there have been narratives that have played over the years by you understand, interested parties and so on. And therefore there have been a lot of if I may very directly put it, manipulation of a lot of facts and figures. Even today, like we discussed in our last session, the large number of our books, our education system is dependent on the Western authors, Western print media, Western thought process. Therefore, in India, what we carry is a lot of baggage, and wherein we now, the present generation and hereafter, need to re-energize our energies to identify the right history, put it correctly, and then project the right data based on factual evidences. We cannot have history that is not based on verified factual evidence, and those are very, very important. Gradually, right, things are coming out. The science is taking over. Archaeological survey department is taking over. A lot of Indian historians have started writing about our own history, and in coming years we shall see a change that may directly not be very palatable to everyone, but yes, when it comes to putting records straight, we must, even at the cost of putting some people at ease. It's all right, and therefore when we say our scriptures like Mahabharat and Ramayana being called as epics or mythology, I do raise questions on that. Are they mythology? Are they epics? Or they are the books of history? The evidences prove, and entire India agrees, the evidences across the world, entire Southeast Asia, East Asia is full of evidences of structures, monuments, people who talk about our ancient days. And if Ramayana is there, scripted in Cambodia, scripted in Vietnam, Indonesia, how has it gone there? 2 months back, when I was in Bali, I was very pleasantly surprised that this simple mantra, Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, Gayatri mantra, that we recite morning, afternoon, evenings, and it's a very integral part to the entire thought process of an Indian mind. We today in contemporary times do not recite it other than our homes. All those who know about it and all those who want to recite this. But I was pleasantly surprised that in Bali, 3 times a day, in public, through public audio system, this mantra is played. And morning, evenings, it is played in the homes and outside. So it is such a pleasant surprise to understand and know that it's not mythology, it's not epic. If people in Bali are doing it, despite Indonesia being a Muslim majority country, there has to be some evidence to where the fire is. There is smoke, we see things happening, so there has to be some chingari somewhere. So I'll put this point at rest, that these still belong to our history, and we for all those who care about history, care about our ancient knowledge system. And there is a lot that we can learn. And in the process, Professor Shashi and me started talking, and we have come thus far. I have primarily spoken about the Mauryan Empire, Chanakya, who created this empire, the largest ever in the world in those days. And he put the entire knowledge of Vedas, Puranas, etc., in the education system that he brought about, the empire that he brought about, through a very concise book called Arthashastra. And my entire talks have been around Arthashastra. And I had started from how the Mauryan Empire had come about, how did the Chanakya really raise this empire from scratch, and the power of the book or the knowledge that he created led to creation of this kind of empire. And this Arthashastra, which I had gone through, I'll continue the same. If you permit me, I shall share my screen and take you back and recollect some of those slides that you've already seen. I hope you can see me. You can see the slide. I hope you can see these slides very well. Thank you. So what I shall do is, this is what I had initially started with. And after going through this, I realized that from the history, let's go to the concepts that Chanakya extended to all of us. So I shall just give you a quick reminder to what we had spoken in our last sessions. And I've given you very, very clear perspectives as to how the entire European Union, they strategize their international relations from the prism of their own system called net assessment. Net assessment is very strongly followed by all of them, and we had connected so many dots last time to understand the present crisis in between Russia and Ukraine, and we had also connected up with Israel and Hamas war. Is it only Israel what it is doing, or there is more to it? And then we had given a little insight from the Chanakyan perspective. And then I had gone along to talk about how interstate relations they are formed, and the very, very basics of interstate relations and diplomacy that Chanakya had extended. We spoke that no state can live in isolation. None of us, for that matter, can live in isolation. And there are no permanent friends and enemies. We spoke that it is not even interstate. It is impacting our personal relations as well. You know, we had a little I said conflict of ideas between me and my elder brother. So for some time, you know, he was not talking to me. I'm giving you impact of Chanakya's philosophy on interpersonal life, your and my life. And I'm taking personal example from my personal life. And so when we were not talking, and this Diwali, I was with my mother, and she said, "Hey, Jeevan, why don't you give a call to elder brother, Bhai Sahab?" We call him Bhai Sahab. I said, "Mom," we call her Bhai. I said, "Bhai Sahab, kitna समय हो गया, वो नहीं बात करते. How do I do that?" You know, and very humbly, this illiterate lady, my mother, she's almost 85 now, and she said, "Beta, so what? भाई तो बात नहीं कर रहा है ना, तू तो भाई है. You give a call and start it all over again." So I said, "Absolutely fantastic, Mom. You really moved me." And I gave a call to my elder brother. I said, "Bhai Sahab, Jeevan calling, hello, and all that." And you know, whatever little uneasiness was there, we could overcome. Why? The Chanakyan philosophy, which has continued in our genes since those days, and this illiterate mother of mine, without understanding, knowing the Chanakyan philosophy, touched the second point. There are no permanent friends and enemies in the relations. It is how you perceive. What is your requirement? What is my requirement? Whether it is physical requirement, monetary requirement, social requirement, emotional requirement. The moment you put any of your requirements, personal issues, it becomes a very professional thought. And in today's world, when the profession moves on interests, principles, objectives, and goals, whether it is individual or an organization, this particular second point, no permanent friends and enemies in the world, stands so true even today. Stands so true. Last time we had taken example of Israel and American friendship. We spoke about Canada and Indian relationship, that it was so fantastic relationship a couple of years back. While the relations between India and America have improved, relations between India and Canada has gone down. So there are no permanent friends and enemies in the world. It is you and me. How we proceed hereafter. Any day can be a new day. And the third point we again spoke, that your neighbor can never be your true friend. Excuse me. With neighbors, whether your personal neighbors staying next door to you or the neighboring country, we always have large number of points which are of mutual concern. Whether it is territory, people, geography, water, weather, migration, and so many more. There's so many common threads between two neighbors. And therefore, between two neighbors, there will always be some rift on one or the other reason. And Chanakya said, yes, you really have to struggle hard to maintain good relation with a neighbor. In any case, a neighbor who's your enemy will not let you sleep. You can't be at peace if your neighbor is firing shots at you. You can't be at peace if your neighbor's wife is hurling shouts and abuses at you, or vice versa. And therefore, it is so very important to manage relations with all our neighbors. And if you recollect, we had said that there are three categories of the states which he identified: Heen Rajya, Sam Rajya, Balwan Rajya. Equal state, smaller states, and the bigger states, bigger neighbors. So according to the size of this neighbor, according to the resources that the neighbor has, we need to really maintain good friendship. And that friendship is possible when we work together for peace. And we really have to work hard for that peace. It doesn't come so easily, right? Then we spoken about the three categories of the state and the three types of strengths which are available. And we realize that out of Mantra Bal, Prabhu Bal, and Utsah Bal, it is the Utsah Bal, it is the willpower which is the most important. And even today we say, in case you have to win the Olympics, it is your willpower. If you can continue for years together, work hard, and really go for it, you get it. You get it. Then we had discussed about net assessment as to what is the Western perspective, and some concepts of Chanakya theory, Chanakya Saptang theory, sixfold. So today we will discuss, if you like, then I will discuss Saptang and sixfold theory, but I think I have discussed enough. In case you desire, I can discuss, no issues. But today I would like to talk about Upayas and Vijikishu and the Rajmandala theory. These three things, three theories I would like to talk. Okay, let me take you ahead through net assessment. We had seen these slides saying that the assessment of a neighboring state or any other state in a holistic manner will give you an assessment of how powerful or strong any country is. and based on our interest in that country, you develop the relations. And they identify SWOT analysis and scenario planning as two major methods for short-term relations and long-term relations. So for short-term strategies and long-term strategies, you do something called base, means, and capacity analysis, and you do pestle analysis, and you are able to identify what are your short-term and long-term strategies, and combined together, you can identify your national security strategies. Imagine, I'll take you to a practical example of this Israel-Hamas war. Israel has been a long-term strategic friend of America. In the recent times, since 7th of October, when the Israel-Hamas war started, America in the beginning of the war supported it very strongly. And President Joe Biden was very categoric when he said, Israel is our trusted friend and we will support them full-hearted, right? Now, after almost a month plus war, same Mr. Biden has said that we want peace. We want zero killings of the civilians. So this short-term strategy or SWOT analysis of America with respect to Israel-Hamas war says that they should devise a strategy by which Israel must conquer Hamas, get the hostages released, and at the same time, let there be no casualties of civilians. The way category. Now, I'll give a comparison to what is going on there with respect to the insurgency and the terrorism that we have been fighting in Kashmir. We've been fighting now over 4 decades. How many civilians killed? And similar reports have you heard from the international media that civilians have been killed in Kashmir? How many? Unless there are fluke civilians who get caught in the crossfire, we don't kill civilians. We know that the Kashmiri people are Muslims. We know that. We know that the terrorists are Muslims and the ideologies match. And yet, we do not kill Muslims or any other civilian in Kashmir. There have been cases where a terrorist has escaped. We were to fire and kill them, but we realized that civilians may get killed. So we prefer a terrorist escaping over a civilian getting killed. So that's the primary difference between what is happening in Israel-Hamas and what has been going on with respect to terrorism in Kashmir. Now, we have democracy, Israel has democracy, they have the same powerful army, we have equally very powerful army, and we can demolish Kashmir, we can demolish Srinagar. Srinagar downtown, I operated. As a young captain, lieutenant, I've had a number of operations in these areas where we had to go into the villages, we had to go into the suburbs of Srinagar and the areas. And we knew that the terrorists were taking shelters in masjid, taking shelters in the houses of the wealthy and powerful civil people in Srinagar and other places in the civilization. We could have simply given them a warning that please get out, go out, otherwise we will demolish, destroy these houses. We did not do that. Instead of that, we followed a policy of pursuance. And gradually, slowly, we weeded them out. The ideology did not change. The people who were supporting terrorism because of the Muslim ideology, that did not change. But we did not kill the civilians. So when you put the perspective of whether it is SWOT analysis or the scenario planning, one of the factors, you see the strength and weaknesses when you put, or the opportunities that I put. The opportunity for me is that there is a terrorist hiding in Srinagar hospital and I must raid the hospital. The threat was that the civilians will get killed. We may have repercussions from the civil society. And therefore, that was our weakness. How did we convert this into our strength and make it an opportunity? We followed a policy of pursuance. We followed a policy of specific and very precise intelligence. And when we had the precise intelligence, then in that specific house, we would go in, get the civilians out and get hold of the terrorists. Whereas what is happening in Al-Shifa hospital or other places in Israel, we've seen all that. So some of these very, very different perspectives, that unless the population is with you, you cannot win a war. Chanakya said that. And the same is applicable even today. So this war of ideology between the Jews and the Muslims will continue in the form of war unless the people are won over. And that's a very slow process. It doesn't happen overnight. Yes, killing Hamas terrorists, raiding into their hideouts, into their command centers, into their ammunition and the weapon centers, headquarters, yes, by all means. But we must prevent civilian, innocent casualties, which included women and children. See, that's the precise difference that I attempted to show you through this net assessment. We had spoken about Saptang theory, 7 elements of the state, and any state that does not have these 7 parts would suffer on those specific aspects. If there's any question, please ask, otherwise I'll move ahead. All right, then we go ahead. Second theory that we had discussed was Shadgunya theory. 6 adjectives or 6 aspects of managing interstate relations, and it impacts our personal lives. We can transpose the same philosophy in our life as well. How do we do that? There is peace on one side, Sandhi. There is war on the other side. So a nation or an individual is between these two extremities. On one side is peace, the other side is war. And all of us, for sure, as humans, we want to be on the side of the peace. How do you do that? If there are enemies, if there are people contesting you, people do not agree with your opinion, and everyone wants to dominate and say, yeah, I am right. Everyone may not always be with you and accept whatever you say. Therefore, you have to identify aspects which give you asan, which gives you neutrality. What are those aspects of neutrality that you should look into? Are the philosophies, are the people, these are the alliances and friendships that you make with people and organizations around you, which is called as samashraya, alliance. So when you make alliances of different types, you make social alliances, like all of us together have made an alliance and say we will talk about ancient Indian philosophy. So this is an alliance that you all in Canada and we in India are trying to put together to understand one aspect. And what is that? Ancient Indian knowledge system. It is one form of alliance that we talk, and maybe it may help us and our next generation. Alliance in the form of political or economic, we all know so well. So when we use these policies, we understand each other better, and instead of antagonizing each other, we work towards peace, we work towards neutrality, and that's the whole aim. And when that samashraya or alliances or large number of coalitions that we form, If they don't help, then at times we play double dealing, dvaidi bhav. We use whatever principle or conversation or a talk which is good for the next fellow, and at times we avoid saying what will irk them, what will destabilize them. We do not talk. At places we give information, at places we give disinformation, at places we hide information. All these are part of double dealing. There is never a time when you are always straight and say, hey, this is complete truth and I speak only honest and nothing else. The trees that don't bend, they fall the first whenever there is a storm. So in order to ensure that you and me don't fall in our relations, in our social structure, in our economic structures, is by managing alliances. And wherever possible, you ensure that the double dealing helps at least you, need not necessarily harm the other party. At times we perceive that by double dealing means I am talking my selfish motive only, and it is likely to harm the other fellow. Yes, selfish motive, yes, you must. I must keep my primary focus on me, my family, my nation, and our interest together. Yes, absolutely. In doing so, preferably you have an alliance, samashraya, so that you don't have to tell a lie. And in case you have to avoid an information, if you have to avoid sharing power, that should be done so that your interests are protected and you don't antagonize the next party. Because the moment you antagonize the next party, they will take actions which are not in your favor. We will get into conflict. Aim is to avoid conflict zone by talking, by peaceful means, by negotiations. And the last part of double dealing is when I use some information about you against you. Now that is the point when I'm using this negative power of double dealing to harm you. And that is possible, or that happens when you for sure know that I'm likely to harm you, and you have enough evidences to prove that I'm going to take actions which are harmful to you. In that case, you must play double dealing so that you don't get harmed. And if that doesn't help, that still doesn't help. You see, till the last minute you keep avoiding. No fight. Indians don't fight. Whereas the first action by Israelis was to fight. So you use dvaidi bhav to maintain peace. If that doesn't happen, simultaneously you keep preparing for war. Yana. And if everything fails, then you, whatever you're prepared for war, then you go for war. Vigraha. And even in that vigraha, please make use of asan, please make use of alliances so that you don't fail, you don't get defeated. And if there is a chance to make peace, please make peace, please negotiate, come back to the table. Ultimately, the war can only be avoided or overcome, and peace will prevail when you and me sit across the table and talk about the peace. We spoke about this last time, and enough to say, let me go ahead. And before I come to Vijigishu, I'll talk about upayas for a while. So I have now put the slide blank, and let's interact for a while, or I can stop sharing so that we can see each other better and talk. I'll share these slides again a little later. But for next 5 minutes, let's talk about 10 minutes. Let's talk about upayas. Since it's a last session, another 10-15 minutes I'll finish, and then we can discuss, spend time in talking, discussing, and understanding. Upayas means an alternative means. In normal parlance, It is also called as Chanakya Niti. I had spoken to you all about Chanakya Niti a little earlier when we said there are 4 words of Chanakya Niti which explains the interpersonal relations and international relations in a most, I think, most brief and concise and precise manner. And you all know those four words: Sam, Dam, Bhed, and Dand. Sam, Dam, Bhed, and Dand. Normally in Indians, when you talk of Chanakya Niti, they say Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed. Incorrectly, we use the word Dam, Dand before Bhed. Sam, Dam, it should be Bhed and Dand. I have observed that most of us speak as Sam, Dam, Dand, and Bhed. So make this correction whenever you speak these 4 words, because they are sequential and simultaneously operate at all levels. Sam means peaceful talk. Maintain peaceful relations and ensure that by peace, love, affection, you maintain your relations very well and all of us grow together. Wherever required, when peace is not prevailing, you may have to use Dam. Dam is persuasiveness. You persuade. Dam, the word in Hindi at times, मतलब इसका दाम कितना है, पैसा कितना है. Please don't compare it with money alone. Include the words like persuasiveness, negotiation skills, and at what cost will you accept my proposal. The cost is, okay, I will accept the proposal of Mrs. Joshi in India only if she has a cup of tea with me on so and so date. Otherwise, no, Mrs. Joshi, I don't accept your proposal. So what did I do? I paid no money to Mrs. Joshi. I just said persuasiveness, man, let's have a cup of coffee. Then we will talk it over. Negotiate. And she says, fine, let me find some time and we will meet in Delhi and let's see how we can proceed hereafter. So, despite having distance, despite the differences, we decided that we will talk. We will negotiate. We will persuade. You pursue your aim, I'll pursue my aim, and let's see where we meet. Wherever we meet, that is the dam that we decide, and we will proceed ahead with respect to our conversation, our relation, and anything else that we want to pursue in life. The same is applicable at the national level. When the two sides, two nations, they decide if Israel and Hamas, they have to talk and move forward to improve the situation, there has to be a persuasiveness from both sides. There has to be a negotiation from both the sides. There has to be a cost paid in terms of social relations, in terms of domination, in terms of monetary, in terms of profits and losses, and so many. So everything else, it gets concised into Sam and Dam. Majority of relations can be managed by these two. When things go bad, excuse me, and you are unable to resolve by negotiations, by talking, or even by intermediate or arbitrator or by any other means, the situation is not getting resolved. That's the time you use bhed. Bhed, Hindi meaning is to divide. Bhed, bhed dal diya. Bhed is also means iska bhed kya hai, iska raaj kya hai, secret kya hai. It also means to say खबर क्या है, क्या भेद लेके आया है, information. So bhed is the word that Chanakya explored to a max use, and the information system that he created in India those days was tremendous, and his entire strategy was based on the information that was available and information that you can create. information about yourself, information about your neighbors, information about your enemies, information about your friends and everything. If you have the information, you can take a calculated risk, you can take a decision. But in case you don't have information, then there is a challenge. And most of the time, we take decisions with half information. Lack of information will give you a poor decision. And therefore, attempt to have best possible information. And when those informations are put in the form of a dot, you can figure out the sketch. You can figure out a strategy. So he says, Bhed is to get information. And therefore, during those days, he employed almost everyone in the country to exchange information, to share information. He made people aware about the importance of information and sharing of this information, to the extent that people were made aware and who said, hey, if I do anything wrong, which is contrary to the national interest, please inform A, B, C, D. And you and me as aware citizens would inform the police, would inform the government, would give a call to ABC and say, hey, my neighbor is doing so and so. Please take action. This is the true use of information and correct awareness being spread amongst the citizens. The citizens must be very, very upright, very, very aware about not only their own self-interest, but of the national interest. And therefore, awareness is the key, information is the key, spreading knowledge, spreading and sharing information. That is why those days Brahmins used to go out so often. Chanakya used to be moving in the entire country, spreading, talking. He says, Bharat Varsh, Bharat Varsh. How can we improve our society? How can we improve our political system? How can we improve our agriculture system? How can we improve our economics, trade, and so on? The more you talk, the more you make people aware, the brighter ideas would come. And with that information, use it for the good of the nation. And in order to identify the right friend and foe, identify who's against you within the society and who's against you outside the society, who's in favor of you inside and outside the country, you needed to have agents, secret agents. So he created two types of agents. He said one is static agents, the second is roving agents who are moving around. So static agents were a shopkeeper who has a shop, and he finds by evening he had 100 people coming and going and talking at his shop. So that shopkeeper's job is to keep listening to all of them, and by evening report to the Gopala or the Sarpanch of the village as to anybody who has spoken ill about somebody or has spoken negative about the country. Similarly, a doctor, a Vaidya, was given this task, static, one place. He gets so many patients, he talks to the patients, he gets the pulse of the nation, of the village, and he must inform the system. It is not the police job of the police to keep hunting for the miscreants. No, it is the job of all of us together to help the police, to help the system. So he created that kind of jagrati amongst the population in India those days. And he used all varieties of people, you say sweepers, Shudras, diseased people, Kodhi, cancer, a Bona, somebody who was who could not speak, somebody who couldn't hear. So he used them appropriately to get information about miscreants anywhere and everywhere within the country and outside country. He would have tribal people living in jungles, forests, villages who would immediately inform of any movement which is contrary to the nation. Any unknown person coming into the village, information would still immediately go up. So nobody from the neighboring country or kingdom could come inside without the information of the minister. or the sarpanch, because people were so aware. They were made aware. Sorry. And then he sent agents in the neighboring kingdoms, roving agents. A Brahmin or going out, giving sermons and talking good things, would go around within the country and outside the kingdom and keep talking about it. In the process, he will keep gathering information. And that information would be given to a messenger, and messenger will bring the information to the minister or to the village, which will finally reach Chanakya and Chandragupta Maurya, who would take a decision as to what is this neighboring country wanting to do. And based on those information, they could take corrective actions. Now, it is not only Brahmins, traders, Vaidyas, diplomats, messengers, the women, prostitutes, they will all use within the kingdom and outside the kingdom to seek information. And anybody who was against the country had to be eliminated. Either he behaves or she behaves and start supporting what is national cause. And if they are not wanting to do the national cause, then you eliminate. The methods of elimination, far too many. Again, Vaidya would be given a task: we please go to the neighboring country, meet the Senapati, and that Senapati must die after 2 months. So he would go in the garb of giving medicine and give medicines which will impact only after 2 months. That's the level of quality of medicine that the impact would be after 2 months, and he would die. So if a Senapati dies after 2 months, his Sena will not be able to attack your country. And so on. So, and in case that Bhed information secret system succeeds, your country is safe. And if that fails, then comes the fourth upayas, Dand. Dand is by a Sena. And you use Sena, if at all you have to use for power and dominate the neighboring kingdom, you give a threat, please behave. If not, then attack. And that attack has to be very, very strongly taken. Right. So with this upayas, let me take you back to sharing of information. Sharing of my slide, please. So I'm sharing my slide again. You can see the slide now. Now, after this upayas, the concept that I'm going to share with you is called Raj Mandala theory, in which a king or a conquering nation is called as Vijigishu. So in the national or international world scenario, you are a Vijigishu. In your personal social life, you are a Vijigishu. An individual is a Vijigishu. Vijigishu means a conquering king. King who wants to conquer. And so this Vijigishu is the center of all activities. You and me are the center of all activities. And your neighbor on all around your country is your competitor, is your rival, is your enemy. It's called Ari or Parsh Nigraha. Parsh Nigraha मतलब पीछे वाला neighbor और ये सामने वाला neighbor. So in our context, if you take Bharatvarsh today, you have neighbors all around. So all these neighbors are your competitors and your rivals. Case in point is Pakistan. Pakistan he was born out of our own country, but they have become our enemy. So your neighbor is a very potential enemy. So you have to work hard to keep him as your friend. And your neighbor's neighbor is his enemy. If your neighbor is your enemy, your neighbor's neighbor is also his enemy. And your enemy's enemy is your friend. I hope you got the point. And therefore, a neighbor of Pakistan is a friend of India. Let me give you an example. Afghanistan is a neighbor of Pakistan. Pakistan is neighbor of India. India and Pakistan are two competitors and rivals. Afghanistan and Pakistan are two competitors and rivals. Therefore, Afghanistan is a natural friend of India. Though Afghanistan is a Muslim country, Pakistan is a Muslim country, but by the concept given by Chanakya is still true today. Pakistan thought that they will be able to rule Afghanistan, but the LET there, Lashkar-e-Toiba, has not permitted it to be so. And there are clashes between the two countries today. And ever since, even when America was in Afghanistan or Russia was in Afghanistan, Afghanistan has always been our friend. And we have constructed their parliament, their schools, hospitals, and so on. We have not sent our forces to Afghanistan, despite the request by the United Nations, United States, and so on. So I'm just giving you a corollary. Now, to our north, China is our neighbor and it's our enemy. The north of China, you find Mongolia, a small country, Mongolia. Mongolia has got a lot of problems, territorial problem, people problem, migration problems with China. So Mongolia becomes a natural friend of India. And we have over $100 billion worth of investment in Mongolia. Similarly, Vietnam is a neighbor of China and it becomes our natural friend. We have billions worth of investment in Vietnam. So this is how the strategy works, international relations work. And in your near arena region and the international area, you have countries called Madhyama or Udasina. Madhyama is a powerful country within close to your proximity, and Udasina is a powerful country which is far off. Madhyama in our context can be Russia. Udasina could be America, Brazil, Canada, Australia, any of the powerful countries which are far away. Japan. So a country has to make continuous efforts to maintain good relations with both Madhyama and Udasina country, and they really have to make effort to understand and do that part. And therefore, Chanakya says, Anuthane dhuvo nashaha praptasya nagatasya cha prapyate falmuthana labdhate charth sampadam. He says, it is the job of the king to maintain discipline amongst the people. And it is the job of the king to ensure that they work, they do their job diligently. Karya Sanskriti or Anushashan. Discipline and responsibility. To maintain that is the job of the king. He must ensure discipline in the country. He must ensure that the people work. And without the discipline and without the Karya Sanskriti, there is no progress in the world. The economic progress is not possible unless the discipline is maintained and unless all of us work together. And he further says, जिस समाज में लोग लापरवाह हैं, कार्य नहीं करने से बचते हैं, समय का मूल्य नहीं समझते हैं, वो देश प्रगति नहीं कर सकता. See how true it is. It is applicable even today in 100% form. Any country where discipline is not there, people want to avoid work, they don't value your time, that country cannot grow. And where शासन चलाने वाले अपने ही हित में लगे रहे, where the ministers and the powerful people, they only look for welfare of their own self, how can that country grow? वहां संपन्नता पाना संभव ही नहीं है. And therefore, the king must work for the good of the people, maintain the discipline, and people have to ensure that they understand the value of time and they must work for the country. And ministers and the powerful people must work for the nation and not for themselves alone. Such a true statement even after 2500 years of time. I'll give you the story of Mandala theory and circle of states as it exists today. If you consider India as a Vijig issue, the conquering country, I'm showing it by this green circle in center of India, and all its neighbors, I'm trying to show it by circle number 1. And by what he has said, ki all your neighbors are your rivals. So all these countries given in red are your competitors or enemies if you don't control them. Right? Now, if you draw one more circle connecting the neighbors of this red circle is Pakistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, some of the Indian Ocean rim countries. They are all part of the red line, our neighbors, immediate neighbors. You can see here, China, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, and so on. Now, this green line, number 2 circle, shows the neighbor of our neighbors. China is our neighbor to the north. Who are the neighbors of China? North Korea, Russia, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and so on. So all these countries, your neighbor's neighbor is your friend. So if India works towards peace and prosperity, then India must make friends with all these countries and must collaborate and strategize. Which actually, if you see today, India is actually doing it. Similarly, if you take Pakistan, the neighbors of Pakistan are China, Afghanistan, Iran, Oman. Because China is our neighbor also, so China is our competitor and the enemy. But Afghanistan, Iran, and Oman, they are our natural friends. And you find so many collaborations of India with these countries. So if you draw one more circle, then the circle of the green, number 2 and that of 3, they are enemies. Neighbors, neighbor. So it is neighbors, neighbors, neighbors. So 1 and 3 are the friends. India and 2 are the friends. So if you draw this red circle, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Turkey, these are the countries which are likely to be antagonists to us. So we have to work really hard to maintain good relations with them. If you draw one more circle and one more circle and draw it across the planet, you can identify your friends and enemies. And similarly, you can identify, say, China could be a Madhyama in our case. Russia could be Udasina. America could be Udasina. So you really have to work towards them for maintaining good relations. What I'm showing is part of a paper that I had written 3-4 years ago, and how international relations would play if we look from the perspective of Chanakya. And it stands good even today. So the same thing can be explored and to the entire world. So I hope I've been able to give you gist of circle of states or Rajmandala theory. If there are any questions, I'll take it during questions answer session. And I come to the close of my session with this small clipping. This small clipping is a lesson by Chanakya to his own students. Please enjoy the clipping. Mr. Joshi, please let me know if the voice is coming. The volume should be good. All of you can put on your volume loudly. Please confirm if the voice is coming.
भय सिर्फ यवनों की दास्ता का ही नहीं है, पर उस सांस्कृतिक दास्ता का भी है जो धीरे धीरे समाज में जन्म लेगी.
Are you able to listen, Mr. Joshi? Okay, fine, fine. So I am restarting this.
भय सिर्फ यवनों की दास्ता का ही नहीं है, पर उस सांस्कृतिक दास्ता का भी है जो धीरे धीरे समाज में जन्म लेगी। पराजित राष्ट्र तब तक पराजित नहीं होता जब तक वह अपनी संस्कृति व मूल्यों की रक्षा कर पाता है। पर क्या धर्म व जाति के नाम पर खंड खंड में बटा यह राष्ट्र आक्रांताओं से अपनी संस्कृति की रक्षा कर पाएगा? यदि आक्रांताओं को इस धरती पर स्थिर होना है तो उन्हें व्यक्ति से व्यक्ति को जोड़ने वाली संस्कृति पर आक्रमण करना होगा, और वे करेंगे यदि हम सावधान नहीं हुए तो। और यदि हमने अपनी सांस्कृतिक विरासत को छोड़ा तो हमारा पतन निश्चित है। अनुभव कहता है कि पराजित मन, पराजित राज्य व पराजित राष्ट्र प्रायः विजेता के संस्कार व संस्कृति को स्वीकार करते हैं। इसलिए यदि शीघ्र ही इस राष्ट्र की सुप्त चेतना को जागृत नहीं किया गया, इस राष्ट्र को संगठित नहीं किया गया, तो इस राष्ट्र को, अपने राष्ट्र को विधर्मी दास्ता से मुक्त करना कठिन हो जाएगा। विद्या ही मुक्ति का मार्ग दिखाती है, और यदि वही असमर्थ है आज तो वह व्यर्थ है। जन्म मरण के बंधन से भी मुक्ति चाहने वाले भारतीय के यवनों का बंधन स्वीकार करेंगे।
आप आज्ञा दीजिए आचार्य, हम बंधनों से मुक्त होने के लिए तैयार हैं।
हर हर महादेव! इस राष्ट्र को यवनों से मुक्त करना है, और इस राष्ट्र की मुक्ति में ही तुम्हारी मुक्ति है।
आचार्य, आप मार्ग प्रशस्त करिए, हम संघर्ष के लिए तत्पर हैं।
तो इस सोए हुए समाज को जागृत करो। इस राष्ट्र में शक्ति है पर वह सुप्त है, उसे जागृत करो। उस साहस को जागृत करो जो इस समाज में है, उस सामर्थ्य को जागृत करो जो इस राष्ट्र में है। पर ध्यान रहे, स्वतंत्रता का यह यज्ञ यौवन का बलिदान मांगेगा, स्वार्थ का बलिदान मांगेगा, और तो और जागृत हो रही रणचंडी का जीवन का बलिदान मांगेगी। पर ध्यान रहे, जागृति लक्ष्य है, आक्रांताओं से मुक्ति लक्ष्य है। बलिदान साध्य नहीं साधन है, अतः बलिदान पौरुष रहित न हो, व्यर्थ न हो। वाहिक प्रदेश के प्रत्येक ग्राम व प्रत्येक नगर में कैकेय, मालव, मद्रक, क्षुद्रक, क्षत्रिय, कठ, वसति, ग्लुचकायन व प्रत्येक गणराज्य में स्वाधीनता संग्राम की अग्नि को प्रज्वलित करना है, और इस यज्ञ की अग्नि में आक्रांताओं को समर्पित करना है। निश्चय करो कि प्रत्येक हृदय में मुक्ति का दीपक जलेगा, और वह आक्रांताओं के लिए दावानल बनेगा। माँ भारती तुम्हारा मार्ग प्रशस्त करे। उत्थिष्ठ भारतः।
Utthishta Bharata, that's the message he says. Those was the time when Yavan were to attack, Alexander was to attack, and that's how he motivated the entire nation to rise and fight against them and win against them. And what he says, the fragrance of flowers spread only in the direction of the wind, but the goodness of the person spreads in all directions, irrespective of the wind. I come to the close of this session. If there are any questions, I shall be happy to take one. Most welcome, please. You muted, madam. Mrs. Joshi, you're muted. You are muted, madam. Please unmute yourself. I can't listen to you. Please unmute yourself.
We still can't hear you.
Yeah. Now we can hear.
No, we cannot. We cannot. This is me. Okay. Yeah, but we can't hear you. Check your. But
I don't know whether
now we can hear you.
Yes.
you can hear now.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe something that I did here. Okay, hello.
Nothing. Yes, everything fine now. We can hear.
Now I think it's fine. No, I said the sessions were very encouraging, and very eye-opening. And now you can relate the things in real life, right? Like when you say a neighbor's neighbors or neighbor's enemies, like neighbor's neighbor is our friend or whatever, or enemies our friend. And like now I think we can see in real life that both our Yogi and Modi, they are both like sort of following the Chanakya theory. And you can see how the rise of India has taken place over the last 10 years. So it's so evident that take all the people into the action. Like it's the people. One person can't do anything. Like every time Modi, wherever he goes, he makes a speech. कि मैं, it's not Modi. 1.25 crore log India ke. When they
Yes.
look at him, if they don't look at him, 1.25 crore mere, Bharatvasiyo. So I think it's a good thing to take people along. And Chanakya was the same thing, that let's all of us rise together. One person cannot do it. So I think it's a very, very good thing. And I think we were number one country in the world at one time. Bharat was everywhere. So our time has come back. I guess we have got realization. And I think we will be number one again very soon.
Yeah, sure.
So thank you. I think it's Friday night and it's Diwali time. A lot of people are away for whatever Diwali parties and stuff. But I think it's been interesting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to email you my itinerary about when I'm there. We can stop the recording.